What's good? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are kicking off the post-rotation content in style. We are doing my favorite type of video. It is a tier list. It is a preset post-rotation tier list. Hopefully I didn't lose you there, but all that means is we're taking a look right before Temporal Forces comes out and right before the rotation. If you're new to the game or this is your first rotation, all rotation means is we are removing the oldest block of cards from standard legality. Anything with an E stamp that came out during the 2021 block, Battle Styles, Evolving Skies, Chilling Reign, Celebration, Fusion Strike, any stamped promos with the E on it, they're removed from the game. If the card had a later printing, looking at you Professor's Research and Boss's Orders, for example, they're still fair game. When cards rotate, existing cards now have a chance to grab the spotlight or make a name for themselves, and with Temporal Forces adding quite a few meta-relevant cards, there are cards that had no business seeing play maybe 3 months ago that have a chance to really steal meta placement. We are doing things a little bit differently. Today we're differentiating between best of one and best of three. Today's folk all best of one and decks that I feel will thrive in that type of environment. It's usually 25 to 30 minutes. You get one crack at it and that's it. There's some surprise elements. In best of one, people usually build lower to the ground. They might play safer. They maybe say, you know what, screw that matchup. I'm not going to worry about it. We'll take it as a strategic loss. In best of three, usually people have a chance to read from your deck, react accordingly. Oh, that spicy tech that you tried in the first game doesn't really get you there. But in best of one, that spicy tech will really get you there, and you try to minimize your donk inability to play the game. So best of one is definitely interesting. Pan has been playing best of one for about 6-ish weeks, so we do have a little bit of base off of help for all your league challenges, play limitless, and your PTCG live ladder. If you enjoyed today's content, be sure to let me know in the comments below. If you didn't enjoy something, let me know as well. Should I be doing more of these best of one and best of threes? Keep an eye out for the best of three that's coming in the next couple of days. And with that said, let's dive right in. S tier, best deck, very few flaws or any. It's going to see a very high play rate. One, it's usually the rest of the top 10, so these are all solid choices. They might only have one or two small flaws. They can beat into most decks and give you very little issue. Tier 1.5, you need the room to be going your way. There's one or two matchups you don't want to see if you expect them in lower droves, or matchups that you really want to see being played in higher droves. 1.5 feels like a 1, but it's not always a 1. Sometimes you see your bad matchups more frequently and it feels like a 2. My prime example from last format was Urshifu and Teleon. When things were going great, oh buddy, it felt like tier 1, but most times it felt like a tier 2. Tier 2, these ones have some clear issues, whether it's consistency, raw damage, or a glaring issue that pretty much any deck on the board can take advantage of. It can still win, it can still top cut, you can still do well, you can outplay your opponent with this type of deck, but you are playing the game a little more on a hard mode. That's okay. Rogue, this is a deck you shouldn't see often enough to really respect, or it's a deck that has a very specific window or deck it wants to beat on to do well, and if it sees that, it's fine. If not, it's not bad, but it's not fantastic either. And then of course bad, this is the one, it's like, what are you doing playing it? Like, unless it's TCG live or you're just trying to intentionally throw, how quickly can you go, oh, 3 drop? You shouldn't be playing this one. I'm sorry. Throw those cards away. Pick up anything else, I beg you. First one in the bad tier, Quake Wavel, Forgotten Paldean starter. Tinkaton, this one hurts because I really want a Tink to have a good card. Maybe they give us a Terra type and we get another chance with it. Wug Trio, it's not even getting the time of day. That deck sucks. Aegislash, Gengar, should not be played unless you're screwing around for fun. Pavilion, they gave it a little too late. Yes, it's grass type. It tries to take on Charizard, but there's a couple better grass type attackers. United Wings, I don't think that deck will ever have a chance to shine. It's just living on nostalgia at this point. Regidrago, I bought into it, but it is the easiest deck to beat on. I always feel like I'm playing the game on hard mode. Regigigas, this one is a pile. People are trying to tell themselves it's not. Reveroom, as funny as it was to talk on Twitter about how this thing could have 400 plus HP, I don't think it's quite the playable deck. Wigglytuff, God, I love this deck, but I don't think it's good. No. I think 350 on a stage 1 is at least worth considering. In a walling mechanic, they'll have Sharon's Care. There's some shenanigans to be had, because even Temple of Sinnoh doesn't shut it off. Mist Energy gives it some life. Now I'll put Venusaur Rogue. Again, it's a little bit better than these because it's a grass type. It's not garbage, but again, you have to ask yourself while you're playing it. Blastoise, so you're doing 280, discarding 2 energy, the Neo upper energy, or even Palkia. Gotta play it with Palkia Bibarel, I think. It's very pigeonholed. And then, of course, while we're talking about the Charizard starters, the only S tier deck on my list, this is probably the best deck in the format. Yes, you can still beat it. Yes, you can play grass Pokemon. Yes, you can play Devo. But Charizard has been the deck to beat in Japan. I really don't think anything changes. In a best of one, this deck will repeat its strategy more often than not. Buddy Poffin fixes the battle VIP issue, so if you miss your setup turn 1, as long as you get it turn 2, don't really mind, don't get donked, and you'll claw back in. and Charizard doesn't mind playing from behind. If you want to see how to play that deck, be sure to go check the previous uploads on the channel. I do go into depth. I'm not going to do that here. I think Miraidon's days are kind of behind it right now. Bad. I don't even think it's Rogue. It was a Flaffy box before, and Flaffy's gone, so it's just kind of mid. Tyranitar, we're going Rogue. Why am I liking this one? 340 hit points on a Pokemon is nothing to scoff at. The new energy allows it to do 100 damage plus an extra 150 if anything are on the bench damage. There's ways to manipulate that, and he's going to sponge a couple hits, and if you play enough boss's orders, whether it's Pidgeot, Bibarel, whatever, I think this thing could make a name for itself in the Lightning Sphere. Hard to say though with Iron Hands in format. Esperatha really takes advantage of the hyper-specific energy requirements right now, so people are playing just the energy they need and not a lick more. So if you can force them to play an additional attachment, and then with Pokemon Headquarters play a second attachment, you can really force out some awkward lines and maybe push them out of resources early. I've seen some degenerates run Crushing Hammer too. Don't get that far. Don't do that. Skeletor. So I'm putting this one in Rogue. I really don't see anybody other than myself and maybe like 3 others playing this deck. Incendiary Song, discard a fire energy, 60 more damage. I think there's some creativity to be played around there, whether it's with Incineroar or as its own. I think those two could play together. Incineroar, new deck out of Temporal Forces. It attacks for 1 less colorless for each bench Pokemon your opponent has in play. Anytime your opponent can manipulate your attacking conditions, I do think that's bad. 240 for, let's say, 1 fire energy if they play a full board. Okay, cool. But what if they decide to not bench Pokemon? In a best of one, I think this is still Rogue. Tier 1 Chen Pao Iron Hand. Charlie TCG did a great job covering the how to play guide. I think Chen Pao is going to be a presence. I think cared for it. It really didn't lose anything. And just like Charizard, it really takes advantage of Buddy Poffin being playable on turn 1 and turn 2. Which was one of my biggest gripes with the deck. If you missed the VIP pass and you didn't set up, you were screwed. But now you have more turns to set up as long as you don't get donked. Palkia on its own is a rogue deck. It's not garbage because Star Portal gets 3 energy. Subspace Swell gets 260 on 2 energy. That's still a good number. But with the loss of Melanie, I don't think it's even coming close to tier 2. Great Tusk, new deck for 2 energy. Discard a card from your opponent's deck. If you played an Ancient Supporter, discard 3 more. But I think in best of 1 format, you can really catch people off guard. Again, they're playing low to the ground. They're not respecting you. You're not going to be a very popular deck, but you are going to be a very good deck. So if I'm playing best of 1, this is where I try Great Tusk, because you typically have to mill anywhere from 24 to 28 cards to win a game, or you have to hit their key switch cards early. If you can hit their key switches and their super odds early, then you can win. I think best of 1 is a format that really lends itself to that. Best of 3, they can play accordingly. They can play slower. They can play their Ionos. They can really disrupt you, and you only have about six-ish turns to get the job done, and I'm going to be playtesting the heck out of. Pidgeot Control 1.5 in a best of 1 format. I think it has a lot of moving parts, and you really take advantage of the fact you have multiple games to set up. So in best of 1, it's good, but again, there's chances where you just don't get to play the game, or your opponent gets all their key pieces because they've built for consistency. Meanwhile, Snorlax Control has been doing fantastic over in Japan because it is a lower maintenance control. People are not respecting it. It is pissing people off, and I don't expect it going anywhere. I expect to see the community up in arms requesting a ban until this card rotates next spring. If you play this one, good luck to you. Just keep in mind you're not making any friends with this one. This is probably the top of Rogue. I'm going to go Lost Zone Gudra. So it gets mist energy. It's reducing damage. It's a pretty strong deck. It still has access to Moisture Star, and it's not going to have to worry about that getting shut off. But I don't think people are going to play Gudra enough to really respect it when there's other Lost Box variants out there. Speaking of, Giratina lost pretty much nothing in best of 1. It gets Buddy Poffin, going to be playing Nest Ball, so you have 8 outs to get Pokemon, so very rarely are you getting donked. I still think it is one of the best comeback decks. It's going to come back a little differently. It's getting Iron Leaves to knock out Charizard. It's getting Maximum Belt to work through EXs. Sableye Math. I see a lot of decks not respecting Sableye because they think it's not going to see play. I'm keeping Sableye. I might even bump it back up to 2 and force decks to play Jirachi. But in the best of 1, people have been cutting Jirachi, and I think Giratina can still eat on that. This is one of those like really good, like you take your chances kind of deck. Giratina is such a good pick for best of 1. Okay. I'm going to put this one in Rogue. It's not trash, but it is definitely not good for best of 1. Arctina, I'm going to put it, if you expect particular decks, I think this is good. Arc Gudra, why do people play this? No. but that one is bad. Why would you play Arc Gudra? Just don't play Arc Gudra. Arc Firebox. So this one has a handful of attackers. You have an attacker for all situations. There are a lot of moving parts. Again, you don't mind missing an attachment with Armarouge because you can always just Magma Base and Accelerate. So I think this one's a little more forgiving. But again, Giratina just hits like a goddamn truck. So that one is going to be higher, but I think this one will give you more play potential. And you can even sneak in an Iron Hands and a Luminous Energy, so that's not the worst either. Maybe I'll talk my way into 1.5 by the end of the video. All right, Raging Bolt. We are putting this one in... My hater's coming out right now. I'm going to put it in Rogue because it is not good. Raging Bolt can steal some. You can go for those big KOs. Maybe it's the best of one. So I think I'm going to rank it higher in best of one. So it's tier 2, extremely flawed. Can win events. We're going to see people win events with it. Online mostly. League challenges mostly. But Raging Bolt is just going to try to do big KO, win. And most people are going to say, oh, I didn't get to play that game, or whatever the reason is. Raging Bolt will steal games. It is not a good deck. It is just going to capitalize on the variance of best of one. Torterra is a flawed best of one rogue deck. I like it. Forest March lets you hit into Charizards for weakness for 1 energy. But there are some disgusting hands. You don't have Buddy Poffin. I don't feel confident putting a tier 2 for best of one. Different story for best of 3. And then we are going to continue looking on our list here. Now, I am not a fan of this one in best of 1 because tier 2, I guess. Oh, goddamn. People are going to play it enough where it's going to be in tier 2, but it is not a good deck. It'll mostly work off the back of Miraidon and an Iron Hands, and it'll be very clunky getting you there. But current builds I've been seeing, current builds I've been testing, I don't like this. For the love of God, I am going to highly tout Roaring Moon in a best of 1. Because Frenzy Gouging, Calamity Storm, Roaring Moon just does the thing faster than everything else. So Roaring Moon is a nice pick for best of 1 because all you have to do is set up and then you can do 220 first turn of the game. So that's another good deck for best of 1. Ancient Box, best of 1. Again, you have 6 prizes, 6 turns to give up. Your Pokemon are bulky. They're about 120, 140. Plus you have the drum lets you draw cards, and you play enough basics that you don't have to worry about getting donked, and Flutter Mane could really steal you games too. So I like this one in a best of 1. Your opponent has more time to prepare. I don't know if I like it as much. Gardevoir is a tier 2. People are not quite off of it yet. I'm not off of it either. I like it better than those two decks. No, that's probably the high rolly deck. It's gonna see meta placement, but it's not what it was. Lost Guard. So if they're seeing a lot of decks that can be crushed by a devolve, one of those more fragile ones. Tier 1, I think Lost Box, Greninja, Paradox Pokemon are gonna be very strong. You got Moon. Again, I've already got Moon as its own deck up here. And Iron Hands is just going to get better. So you've got those two. Whether you go Glasses or you lean into Greninja or you lean into Sableye. And decks are not playing Jirachi because it's best of 1 and they're saying we'll take our chances. What are the odds we hit Sableye? I think Lost Box is still poised to do well. The newest skateboard, Lost Vacuum, Force Seal Stone. This one could more or less adopt a turbo approach. People are going to try the new Matang. Dialga is going to be, you know, one of those rogue decks, 100%. We're going to try it for about 7 days. People are going to realize, hey, this deck still sucks. And then they're going to put it down. Because I believe Magnezone was the deck everybody tried last year. And then I think halfway through April, we're like, yeah, put this one away. Don't. It's fun. It's awesome doing the Star Chronos thing. Not that much better. I'm going to give it a higher score in best of 3. But it is bad in best of 1. You have so many moving parts. Ampu very much is going to be everywhere's. Goldango. This one can run people off the board. So I'm going to put it at 1.5 because it does get Buddy Poffin as well. So Buddy Poffin is really predicating where I rank these decks in the higher tiers. If you can Poffin, usually get set up. And if you get set up, you get to play. And in best of 1, the most important thing in most matchups is getting to play. Meowscarada is rogue. I don't expect enough people to play it to put it higher. If it gets to play, because it does have Call for Family, I'm going to put it in here. It's like the Goldango. So Special Roll can really deal with Charizards. If it's not dealing with Charizard, it can be funky. Blocklax is still ugly. A lot of its matchups are based on, are they teched for you or do they just let you sleep under the radar? So if they don't respect for you and Lugia gets to do the Lugia things, it's a tier 1 deck. But if it's not doing the Lugia things and maybe you miss that turn 2 summoning star and you're doing a turn 3, you're gonna feel like a turn 2. Okay, this one is right there. So this is the Quad Iron Hands one, making its name over in Japan. So this one is this year's Regieleki VMAX. People are hyping it. The Iron Hands are going for like $25 Canadian a piece. Think that is ridiculous. The deck is good, but it's not that good. But it's looking to carve out its niche. If it gets to do the thing, which is amp you very much, then it'll enjoy doing that thing for anywhere from 1 140, 20 in damage, then it will perform. But if you lost Vacuum, knock it out, then sometimes the deck just crumbles. It's gonna feel like this format's Entei Iron Valiant, which leads me into Entei Iron Valiant. I think the loss of Yoga Loop, the loss of VIP Pass really knocks it down a peg. I think people are going to experiment with it and that new Ancient Entei because that hits harder, but I do still think it's going to be flawed. So Magma Basin, Sada, Jet Energy, you're smacking 260 first turn of the game. That could be a problem for many decks. Crime Catcher or Maximum Belt, depending on which way you go. And then you can clean up KOs later with the Iron Valiant. So that's interesting. Tier 2, sorry buddy. You are bad. You are no longer good. You are no longer a meta deck. So this is where my tier list is. Best of 1. How often do I get to set up? Many of the decks are based on I feel like they're going to get to play the game more often than most. And the other ones are the surprise element. So Roaring Moon, smack on your face. The 2 control decks on your face, but maybe you didn't respect it. And decks that can utilize Sableye, I did put a little bit more value on because people are cutting their Jirachis, and I feel like you're going to quickly learn the hard way. You need to put Jirachi back for the time being. Until Sableye rotates, it is a valuable card to have in your list. So until next time, guys, what did I get right? What did I get wrong? And what are you looking forward to in the Temporal Force set? Cheers.